I'm Tiffany, 37, mother to the most beautiful 8-year-old daughter, Zoe. My sister Madison and I were inseparable growing up, but everything changed that rainy afternoon at our family reunion. The sight of Madison deliberately pushing Zoe into that muddy puddle and calling her a little pig in front of everyone still makes my blood boil. That moment shattered our relationship, but exposed wounds we'd both hidden for decades. Neither of us could have predicted how this awful incident would transform us all. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever had to confront a family member who crossed the line. Growing up in suburban Pennsylvania, our family was the picture of middle-class contentment. Our neighborhood in Westbrook had those cookie-cutter houses with neatly trimmed lawns, and everyone knew each other by name. My parents, Howard and Eleanor, created a loving home where family always came first. Madison is 3 years younger than me, and despite the typical sibling rivalries, we were incredibly close as children. I still remember braiding her hair before school, helping with her homework, and staying up late whispering secrets across our shared bedroom. She followed me everywhere, and I loved being her protector and guide. We shared clothes, friends, and dreams for the future. But as we grew older, our paths diverged dramatically. I met Ryan during my sophomore year of college, fell madly in love, and married him by 22. We settled back in our hometown, bought a modest 3-bedroom house, and I gave birth to Zoe when I was 29. I chose to scale back my marketing career to be more present for my daughter, picking up freelance projects that allowed me flexibility. Madison took a completely different route. She graduated with honors, moved to New York City, and climbed the corporate ladder at a prestigious fashion marketing firm. Her Instagram was a showcase of glamorous parties, exotic vacations, and designer outfits. While I was dealing with playground politics and bedtime tantrums, Madison was networking with celebrities and flying to Paris for Fashion Week. At first, we maintained our closeness despite our different lifestyles. Weekly phone calls, occasional visits, and family holidays kept us connected. But gradually, I noticed subtle changes in Madison's attitude toward my life choices. She'd make comments like, "Don't you miss using your brain?" Or, "I could never be tied down like that." Each remark stung, though I tried to brush them off. Ryan, my husband of 15 years, always encouraged me to address these issues with Madison, but I avoided confrontation. Ryan is the steady, practical type, an architectural engineer who approaches problems logically. Though he noticed the tension between Madison and me, he respected my desire to maintain family harmony. 6 years ago, Madison married James, a successful investment banker she met at a charity gala. Their wedding in the Hamptons was like something out of a magazine: 300 guests, gourmet food, and a designer dress that cost more than our car. They bought a penthouse in Manhattan and continued their childless, jet-setting lifestyle. When we'd visit, Zoe was instructed not to touch anything, and Madison would visibly wince at any noise or mess. Everything shifted again last year when James accepted a position that required relocating to Philadelphia, just an hour from our hometown. Suddenly, Madison was back in our orbit, attending Sunday dinners at our parents' house and showing up at family events. The increased contact only highlighted how different we'd become. During those first few family gatherings after her return, the tension was palpable. Madison would comment on my mom jeans or suggest meal delivery services when she tasted my cooking. She'd bring extravagant gifts for Zoe that were completely impractical, like designer clothes that would be ruined during normal child's play. What bothered me most was how she treated Zoe. My daughter has always been sensitive, perceptive beyond her years, with a tender heart that feels everything deeply. She's artistic and thoughtful, preferring reading and drawing to sports. Zoe has my curly brown hair and Ryan's blue eyes, and the sweetest smile that lights up her whole face. Even at 8, I'd noticed Zoe becoming self-conscious about her appearance. She's a perfectly healthy child, but has a naturally sturdy build like my side of the family. Madison, who's always been naturally slim, would make comments within Zoe's earshot like, "Should she be having seconds?" Or, "Maybe she needs more physical activities." Each time, I'd see my daughter's smile fade, and it broke my heart. I tried talking to Madison privately about it once. "She's just a child," I said. "Please be mindful of how your words affect her." Madison had seemed genuinely surprised. "I'm just looking out for her health, Tiff. Kids these days have so many issues with obesity. I'm trying to help." Despite my discomfort, I kept making excuses for my sister's behavior. Our parents noticed the tension, but, being conflict-averse, encouraged me to let it go and not make a big deal out of nothing. So, I swallowed my concerns and continued hoping things would improve naturally. The annual family reunion at our parents' lakeside property had been a tradition since we were children. It was the one event everyone attended without exception: grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even a few close family friends. This year would be the first with Madison back in the area permanently, and I felt a mixture of nostalgia and apprehension as the date approached. Little did I know that this cherished family tradition would become the setting for an incident that would change everything between my sister and me, and ultimately lead to unexpected healing for us all. The day of the family reunion arrived with gray skies and a light drizzle. Not ideal for a lakeside gathering, but nothing that could dampen the family's enthusiasm. Our parents' property, a 3-acre lot with a cozy cabin and private dock, had been in the family for decades. The trees were just beginning to show hints of autumn colors, and the lake rippled with raindrops. I arrived early with Ryan and Zoe to help my mother prepare. The cabin smelled of cinnamon and coffee as Eleanor bustled around the kitchen, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. At 65, she still insisted on cooking most dishes herself, only reluctantly accepting help. "Let me handle the potato salad, Mom," I offered, tying an apron around my waist. "Just make sure to add enough mayo." "Not like last year," she replied, but her smile took any sting out of the words. Zoe immediately ran outside to the covered porch where her cousins had gathered. My brother Kevin's 3 children and my cousin Jessica's twins were already engaged in an elaborate card game. Despite the weather, their laughter echoed across the property. "They'll want to go down to the lake even in this rain," Ryan predicted as he carried in coolers of drinks. "I'll keep an eye on them if they do." By noon, most of the family had arrived. Folding tables covered with checkered cloths lined the expanded living room since the weather prevented our usual outdoor setup. Aunt Patricia was arguing politics with Uncle Robert, Cousin Michael was showing everyone pictures of his new baby, and my father Howard was stoking the fireplace, nodding along to conversations around him. At 12:30, a sleek black Range Rover pulled up the gravel driveway. Madison and James arrived like celebrities making an entrance. She in white designer jeans that somehow didn't show a speck of mud, he in a casual but clearly expensive sweater. They carried multiple gift bags with designer logos and a bottle of champagne that simply had to be opened immediately. "Sorry, we're late," Madison announced, air-kissing relatives as she moved through the room. Traffic was a nightmare, and then we had to stop for proper coffee. James can't function without his specific blend. She handed me a small bag as she reached me. "Just a little something for my favorite sister. It's that anti-aging serum I told you about. Works wonders on tired skin." I forced a smile, noting the implication about my appearance. "Thanks, Madison. We've been here since 8 helping Mom." "Of course you have," she said with a thin smile, then turned to greet our parents with far more enthusiasm. James, to his credit, seemed uncomfortable with his wife's behavior. He gave me a genuine hug and whispered, "She's been stressed about work. Don't take it personally." I'd always liked James despite his obvious discomfort around children. He treated Ryan with respect and made genuine efforts to connect with Zoe, even if awkwardly. Lunch was served buffet style, with everyone balancing plates on their laps or at small tables. My mother's famous fried chicken, Aunt Patricia's mac and cheese, and about a dozen different sides and salads made for a feast. As everyone filled their plates, Madison surveyed the spread with raised eyebrows. "Not a kale salad in sight," she murmured to James, loud enough for nearby relatives to hear. "This is why half the family is on blood pressure medication." My cousin Jessica, never one to hold back, responded immediately. "Some of us actually enjoy food, Madison." Not everyone wants to live on green juice and misery. An awkward laugh rippled through the group as Madison's face tightened. She took a small portion of grilled chicken and salad, ostentatiously avoiding the heartier dishes. Zoe, who had been playing with her cousins, came rushing in with rosy cheeks and tousled hair.
Mom.
Can I have some mac and cheese and chicken? I'm starving. Of course, sweetheart, I said, helping her fill a plate. There's plenty. Madison watched this interaction with narrowed eyes. When Zoe excitedly mentioned the chocolate cake she'd spotted for dessert, Madison interjected. Zoe, honey, you might want to watch those carbs. Girls your age need to start thinking about healthy habits. You don't want to struggle with your weight like your mom did in high school. The comment landed like a slap. Several relatives looked down at their plates uncomfortably. Ryan, who had been chatting with my brother, turned sharply at overhearing this. Zoe is perfectly healthy, I said quietly but firmly. And 8-year-olds shouldn't be counting carbs. Just trying to help, Madison replied with a shrug. Prevention is easier than cure. Zoe, confused by the sudden tension, looked between us. Can I still have cake, Mom? Of course you can, Ryan answered before I could, his tone leaving no room for debate. The meal continued with forced pleasantries, but the atmosphere had shifted. After lunch, despite the light rain continuing, the children begged to go outside. The adults relented after making them promise to stay away from the lake itself and stick to the covered areas or yard. I remained inside helping clean up, but kept an eye on the children through the window. Zoe and her cousins were jumping around the yard, playing some version of tag that involved a lot of shrieking and laughter. The rain had created several puddles in the uneven ground. From my vantage point in the kitchen, I saw Madison step onto the porch, phone in hand. She appeared to be taking a business call, judging by her serious expression and formal tone. The children's noise seemed to irritate her as she paced the length of the porch. What happened next occurred so quickly that at first I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Madison ended her call, slipped her phone into her pocket, and descended the porch steps. She approached the children with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She said something to Zoe that made my daughter pause her game and come closer. Then, with a quick movement that could not possibly have been accidental, Madison extended her arm and pushed Zoe sideways, directly into a large, muddy puddle. My daughter fell hard, splashing brown water all over her clothes and face. The other children stopped playing, shocked into silence. And then, clearly audible through the partially open window, I heard my sister's voice. Look at you, wallowing like a little pig. Time seemed to freeze. Zoe sat stunned in the muddy water, her face crumpling as the humiliation registered. The other children stood awkwardly, unsure how to react. Madison remained standing over her, making no move to help Zoe up, a strange expression, almost satisfaction on her face. I dropped the dish I was drying and ran for the door, fury and disbelief coursing through me. By the time I reached the yard, Zoe was sobbing, mud streaking her face, and clothes completely soaked. Madison had already turned to walk away as if nothing unusual had happened. What the hell was that? I screamed, causing heads to turn from inside the house. I knelt beside Zoe, trying to help her up while avoiding getting mud everywhere. Are you okay, sweetheart? Zoe could barely speak through her tears. Aunt Madison pushed me and called me a pig. She hiccuped, loud enough for everyone to hear. Madison turned back, rolling her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. She was running around and slipped. I was just making a joke. A joke. I stood up, my voice shaking with rage. You pushed an 8-year-old child into mud and called her a pig. What part of that is funny? By now, family members were spilling onto the porch and yard, including Ryan, who immediately came to Zoe's side. What's going on? My father asked, confusion on his face. Madison pushed Zoe into the mud and insulted her, I said, trying to control my voice. Madison crossed her arms defensively. It was an accident, and everyone's overreacting. The kids were being way too loud while I was on an important call. I barely touched her. The blatant lie made my blood boil. I saw you from the window. It was deliberate. The other children, now being gathered by their parents, confirmed my version. Aunt Madison did push Zoe, my nephew Tommy said quietly. And she did call her a pig. As the reality of what happened sank in, the family's reactions were mixed. Some looked shocked, others uncomfortable. My mother immediately tried to smooth things over. "I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding," Eleanor said, looking distressed. Madison wouldn't intentionally hurt Zoe. But the evidence was clear in my sobbing, mud-covered daughter and in the testimonies of the other children. James looked mortified, whispering something harshly to Madison, who maintained her defensive posture. Ryan, normally the calmest person I know, was visibly struggling to contain his anger as he helped Zoe to her feet. "We need to get her cleaned up and into dry clothes," he said to me, his voice tight. "She's shivering." As we led Zoe toward the house, I heard Madison mutter, "Talk about making a mountain out of a molehill." That was the moment I knew we wouldn't be staying for the rest of the family reunion. Something fundamental had broken between my sister and me, and I couldn't pretend otherwise, not anymore. In the small bathroom of my parents' cabin, I gently cleaned the mud from Zoe's face and hair. Ryan had gone to the car to retrieve the emergency change of clothes we always kept for her. Zoe's sobs had subsided into hiccuping breaths, but the hurt in her eyes cut straight to my heart. "Why does Aunt Madison hate me, Mommy?" she asked, her voice small and confused. The question stunned me. How could I explain adult cruelty to an 8-year-old? "She doesn't hate you, sweetie. Aunt Madison. She has her own problems that have nothing to do with you. But she called me a pig." Fresh tears welled in her eyes. In front of everyone. Ryan entered with clean clothes and a towel. The muscle twitching in his jaw told me he was still furious. "How's our girl doing?" he asked, his voice gentle despite his anger. "I'm okay," Zoe mumbled, though she clearly wasn't. Once she was changed into dry clothes, we returned to the main room where an uncomfortable silence had fallen over the family gathering. Madison and James were sitting apart from everyone else, James looking embarrassed while Madison scrolled through her phone as if nothing had happened. "We're going to head home," I announced to my parents. "Zoe's had enough excitement for one day." My mother looked distressed. "But you can't leave now. We haven't even had dessert, and Uncle George just arrived." "I'm sorry, Mom, but we're leaving," Ryan said firmly, putting a protective arm around Zoe's shoulders. My father approached, conflicted. "Tiffany, I understand you're upset, but it was just an accident. Let's not ruin the whole reunion over this." "It wasn't an accident, Dad. I saw it happen." I lowered my voice, trying to keep my composure. "I'm not going to force my daughter to stay around someone who just humiliated her." Madison finally looked up from her phone. "You're being ridiculous. Kids get pushed and fall all the time. It's not like she's injured." "Physical injuries heal," Ryan responded before I could. "It's the other kind that leaves scars." As we gathered our belongings, various family members approached with mixed reactions. Aunt Patricia whispered, "You're right to leave." That was horrible to watch. Cousin Jessica offered to bring Zoe's cousins over for a play date soon to cheer her up. Others were less supportive. "You're overreacting," my Uncle Robert muttered. "Sisters fight. It's normal." My mother made one last attempt to keep the peace. "Madison, why don't you apologize to Zoe, so they can stay?" Madison rolled her eyes, but stood up with a sigh.
"Fine. Sorry you fell in the mud, Zoe.
Next time be more careful where you're playing." The non-apology made Ryan take a step forward, but I placed a hand on his arm. "That's not an apology, Madison. That's placing blame on an 8-year-old for something you did." I turned to my parents. "We're leaving. I'll call you tomorrow." The drive home was quiet except for Zoe's occasional sniffles from the back seat. Ryan and I exchanged concerned glances, but saved our discussion for after she went to bed. That evening, after tucking Zoe in with extra stories and reassurance, Ryan and I sat at our kitchen table, cups of tea growing cold between us. "I've never seen anything like that," Ryan said, breaking the silence. "Your own sister deliberately pushing a child and then calling her names?" "I keep replaying it in my head," I admitted. The look on Madison's face, It was almost like she enjoyed seeing Zoe fall. This isn't the first time she's been cruel to Zoe, Ryan pointed out. It's just the first time it's been this obvious. My phone had been buzzing with family messages all evening. I scrolled through them with growing frustration. My mother asking us not to blow things out of proportion. My father suggesting we let things cool down. Even my brother Kevin, who had witnessed everything, urged me to cut Madison some slack. "Why is everyone defending her?" asked Ryan. "They all saw what happened. Because it's easier than confronting the truth," he replied. "Nobody wants to admit that the golden child of the family did something indefensible." Around 9 o'clock, a text from Madison finally appeared. "Sorry about today. Everyone was stressed and things got out of hand. Hope Zoe isn't too upset about a little mud. See you at Mom's next Sunday?" XO, the casual dismissiveness of her message made me want to throw my phone across the room. "She still doesn't think she did anything wrong," I told Ryan, showing him the text. "Are you going to respond?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not tonight. I don't trust myself to be civil." Over the next week, the situation escalated in ways I hadn't anticipated. Zoe, normally excited about school, began complaining of stomachaches in the morning. On Wednesday, I received a call from her teacher, Mrs. Bennett. "I'm concerned about Zoe," she said. "She's been very withdrawn the past few days, and today I found her crying in the bathroom during recess." Alarmed, I asked what had happened. From what I can gather, some children have been teasing her, calling her Piggy. When I asked where this came from, she mentioned something about her aunt. My heart sank. Her cousin must have told other kids about what happened at our family reunion. That afternoon, I picked Zoe up from school instead of letting her take the bus. Her face lit up when she saw me waiting, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "Ice cream before dinner?" I suggested, breaking one of our household rules. Over chocolate sundaes, Zoe finally opened up. Emma told everyone what Aunt Madison said. Now Tyler and Bella oink when I walk by. Her lower lip trembled. "Am I fat, Mommy?" The question shattered me.
No, sweetheart.
"You're perfect exactly as you are. Your body is strong and healthy and growing just as it should be." Then why did Aunt Madison say that about me? I struggled to find the right words. Sometimes adults say mean things because they're unhappy with themselves, not because there's anything wrong with you. That night, I found Ryan in Zoe's doorway, watching her sleep. "She cried herself to sleep," he said quietly. I heard her when I went to say goodnight. Something hardened inside me. The mama bear protective instinct people talk about isn't just a metaphor, it's a visceral, primal force.
"This has to stop," I said.
"Madison needs to understand what she's done." Ryan nodded. "What are you going to do?" "Confront her. Not over text or phone. Face to face." "Want me to come with you?"
He offered.
I considered it but shook my head. This is between sisters. It's time Madison and I had an honest conversation, long overdue. The next morning, after dropping Zoe at school with extra reassurance and love, I drove to Madison's new home in the upscale Oakwood neighborhood. I hadn't warned her I was coming. This wouldn't be a carefully orchestrated meeting where she could prepare her defenses. As I pulled into her circular driveway, I took a deep breath and reminded myself why I was there. For Zoe. My beautiful, sensitive daughter needed me to be her advocate. No more excuses. No more keeping the peace at her expense. I was done letting Madison's cruelty slide in the name of family harmony. This confrontation was years in the making, and I was finally ready to have it, whatever the consequences might be. Madison's house was exactly what you'd expect, a sprawling modern mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist landscaping that probably cost more than my annual salary to maintain. The contrast with my modest family home couldn't have been more stark. I rang the doorbell, hearing its elegant chime echo through the house. After a moment, Madison opened the door in designer yoga wear, her hair perfectly styled despite the casual look she was going for. Her surprise at seeing me quickly morphed into a guarded expression. "Tiffany, what are you doing here?" She glanced behind me as if expecting Ryan or Zoe. "We need to talk," I said simply, my voice steadier than I felt. About what happened at the reunion. She sighed dramatically, but stepped aside.
Guess.
I was about to leave for Pilates, so make it quick. The interior was like something from an architectural magazine. Open concept with pristine white furniture that made me nervous just looking at it. No photos, no personal touches, just expensive art and design pieces that seemed selected to impress rather than create comfort. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? Madison offered, playing hostess as if this were a social call.
No.
I want to talk about Zoe. Madison rolled her eyes. Are you still upset about that? Kids fall in mud puddles all the time. It's not the end of the world. You pushed her, Madison. You called an 8-year-old child a pig. My daughter. Your niece. I barely touched her. And it was just a joke. I took a deep breath. Zoe is being bullied at school now. Kids are making oinking noises at her. She asked me if she was fat. For the first time, a flicker of discomfort crossed Madison's face. That's not my fault. Kids are mean. Yes, it is your fault. Her cousin told classmates what you said, and now they're using it to torment her. I stepped closer. What I can't understand is why. Why would you want to hurt a child? What has Zoe ever done to you? Madison crossed her arms defensively. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Answer the question, Madison. Why Zoe? It's not about Zoe, she snapped, her composure cracking. It's never been about Zoe. The sudden outburst hung in the air between us. Then what is it about? I asked more quietly. Madison turned away, walking to her floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the manicured backyard. You wouldn't understand. Try me. She whirled around, her eyes suddenly fierce. It's about you, Tiffany. It's always been about you. I blinked in confusion. Me? What are you talking about? Perfect Tiffany. Everyone's favorite. Her voice rose with each word. The responsible one, the kind one, the one who could do no wrong. Do you have any idea what it was like growing up in your shadow? The accusation blindsided me. My shadow? Madison, you were the star of the family. You had the better grades, the popularity, the looks. Mom and Dad bragged about you constantly. Because I had to work 3 times as hard for their attention, she shot back. You were their firstborn, their golden child. I was always Madison. Why can't you be more like your sister? I shook my head, struggling to reconcile her version of our childhood with my own memories. That's not how it was. That's exactly how it was for me. She paced the room now, her carefully constructed poise abandoned. And then you had to go and have the perfect little family, too. The devoted husband, the adorable daughter. The Instagram-worthy life without even trying. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Instagram-worthy? Madison, my life is a mess most days. I work from home in sweatpants while trying to keep up with Zoe's school projects and Ryan's crazy work schedule. It's chaotic and imperfect and real. But you're happy, she said, and the pain in her voice caught me off guard. You've always been genuinely happy with your choices. Do you know how rare that is? For the first time, I sensed we were getting to something honest. And you're not? Happy with your choices? Madison fell silent, then sank onto her pristine, white sofa. I don't know anymore. I sat across from her, maintaining distance, but opening the conversation. Talk to me, Madison. What's really going on? She stared at her manicured hands for a long moment. Did you know I had an eating disorder in high school? The question startled me. What? No, I had no idea. Of course you didn't. I hid it well. She gave a bitter laugh. Started when I was 14. Diet pills, purging, the whole package. Mom and Dad never noticed. Madison, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was always the chubby sister, remember? Before my growth spurt. Memories filtered back. Madison at 12. Slightly pudgy before she shot up several inches and slimmed down naturally. I never thought much about her transformation. I still hear those comments, she continued. From Uncle Robert saying I was filling out. From Mom telling me my face looked round in photos. Everything I've done since then, my career, my image, my life, has been about proving I'm not that girl anymore. The revelation was reshaping my understanding of my sister. But what does this have to do with Zoe? Madison's eyes filled with unexpected tears. She looks like I did at that age. The same build, the same face shape. When I see her enjoying food without guilt, being comfortable in her body, I see the child I never got to be. And sometimes I hate her for it. The admission hung between us, raw and honest. And then there's the fact that I can't have children. The words came out in a whisper. What? I hadn't known this either. James and I have been trying for 3 years. Fertility treatments, specialists, everything. Nothing works. She wiped away a tear. The doctors think it might be related to the damage from my eating disorder. The ultimate irony. My anger began to dissolve, replaced by a complicated mix of empathy and sadness. Madison, I'm truly sorry about your struggles, but that doesn't make it okay to hurt Zoe. I know, she said, and for the first time, genuine remorse showed on her face. When I pushed her, it wasn't planned. I saw her playing so carefree and something just snapped. All my frustration and jealousy came pouring out. As soon as I did it, I knew it was terrible, but I couldn't take it back. So I doubled down instead of apologizing. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her confession filling the room. I've been seeing a therapist, Madison finally said. Since we moved back. James insisted after he noticed how obsessive I've become about controlling everything. That's good, I said softly. That's a positive step. I'm not a monster, Tiff. I love Zoe. I have these moments where my own pain blinds me. I studied my sister, really looked at her perhaps for the first time in years. Behind the perfect exterior, I saw the scared, insecure girl still fighting her demons. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it helped me understand it. Madison, I need you to understand something. I will always protect Zoe, even if that means protecting her from you. She nodded slowly. I know. You should. But I don't want to lose my sister either. Her eyes met mine, hopeful but cautious. What are you saying? I'm saying that if you're serious about getting help and making amends, I'm willing to work on rebuilding trust. But it starts with a genuine apology to Zoe. I want to, she said. I really do. I'm ashamed of what I did. Actions, not just words, I reminded her. Zoe needs to see real change. Madison wiped away her tears and straightened her shoulders. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, family counseling, anything. I don't want to be this person anymore, Tiff. For the first time since arriving, I felt the tension in my body begin to release. This wasn't the confrontation I had expected, but maybe it was the conversation we had needed for years. Can I ask you something? Madison said hesitantly. Were you ever jealous of me? The question made me pause and reflect honestly.
Yes.
Your confidence, your career success, the way you always seem to know exactly what you want. I've admired those things about you, even when I was hurt by your judgment. A small, genuine smile appeared on her face. We've been competing for so long, we forgot how to be sisters. Maybe it's time to remember, I suggested. As I prepared to leave, Madison walked me to the door. I am sorry, Tiffany. For everything. Not just the incident with Zoe, but for all the times I've been dismissive or cruel. I know, I said, and was surprised to realize I believed her. This is just the beginning of a longer conversation. And Madison? That perfect life you think I have? It's messy and challenging and sometimes overwhelming. But you're always welcome in it. The real you, not the perfect image. She nodded, vulnerability visible in her eyes. I'd like that. Driving home, I felt lighter somehow. The confrontation had turned into something unexpected. The first honest conversation Madison and I had shared in years. I wasn't naive enough to think one talk would fix everything, but it felt like a crack in the wall we'd built between us. A beginning. 3 weeks passed before I heard directly from Madison again. My parents reported that she had increased her therapy sessions to twice weekly and had canceled a major work trip to focus on her mental health. James had called Ryan once, thanking him for our patience and explaining that Madison was doing the work, as he put it. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, a thick cream-colored envelope arrived addressed to Zoe in Madison's distinctive handwriting. Inside was a handwritten letter on expensive stationery. Madison had asked me to read it first, which I appreciated. "Dear Zoe," it began, "I owe you the biggest apology in the world for how I behaved at the family reunion. Pushing you into that puddle and calling you a mean name was wrong, cruel, and something no adult should ever do to a child. It had nothing to do with you, and everything to do with my own problems. You are a beautiful, kind, creative girl who deserves to be treated with love and respect, especially by family members who should protect you. I broke that trust, and I'm truly sorry. I want you to know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with your body or who you are. The problem was with me and my own insecurities. I'm working with a special doctor who helps people understand their feelings better. I'm learning why I sometimes say and do hurtful things when I'm actually sad or scared inside. This doesn't excuse my behavior, but I want you to know I'm trying to become a better person and a better aunt. If you're willing, I would love the chance to apologize to you in person someday, but only when you feel ready. I will respect whatever you decide. No matter what, please know that I love you, and I'm sorry for hurting you. With love and regret, Aunt Madison." The letter was simple enough for an 8-year-old to understand, but didn't talk down to Zoe. I showed it to Ryan that evening, and he agreed it seemed genuine. "Should we show it to Zoe?" he asked. "I think so," I said. "But I want her to know she doesn't have to respond or forgive Madison right away." That night, I sat on Zoe's bed and showed her the letter. She read it carefully, her expression serious. "What do you think, sweetheart?" I asked when she finished. Zoe considered the question thoughtfully. "Is Aunt Madison really seeing a doctor for her feelings?" "Yes, she is. It's called a therapist, and they help people understand why they feel certain ways and how to handle those feelings better." "Like how I talk to Miss Fisher at school when I'm sad?" Zoe asked, referring to the school counselor she'd been seeing since the bullying started. "Exactly like that." Zoe folded the letter carefully. "I believe she's sorry. But I'm still a little scared of her." "That's completely understandable. You don't have to see her until you feel ready. Maybe someday," Zoe said, showing wisdom beyond her years. "When she's better." I kissed her forehead, pride swelling in my chest at her compassion. That's a very kind way to think about it. Over the next month, Madison kept her distance, but sent occasional updates through our parents or directly to me. She'd joined a support group for women with eating disorders. She'd declined a promotion that would have meant more stress and travel. She'd started volunteering with a body-positive organization that worked with young girls. I shared some of these developments with Zoe, who seemed cautiously interested. "Is Aunt Madison getting better?" she would ask. "I think she's trying very hard," I would answer honestly. After consulting with Zoe's therapist about the best approach, I finally agreed to Madison's request to meet with Zoe. We arranged to meet at Zoe's favorite ice cream shop, neutral territory, where she would feel comfortable and could leave easily if needed. When the day arrived, I could tell both Zoe and Madison were nervous. Madison arrived first, waiting at an outside table. Gone was the perfectly coordinated designer outfit, replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. She'd even scaled back her usually impeccable makeup. "Thank you for giving me this chance," she said when we approached, speaking directly to Zoe rather than to me. Zoe nodded shyly, staying close to my side. "I brought something for you," Madison said, pulling out a package wrapped in simple blue paper. "It's not expensive or fancy, just something I thought you might like." Zoe looked to me for permission before accepting the gift. Inside was a high-quality sketchbook and professional colored pencils, a thoughtful choice based on Zoe's love of drawing that had nothing to do with her appearance. "Your mom mentioned you like to draw," Madison explained. "I thought maybe you could show me some of your art someday, if you want to." "Thank you," Zoe said quietly. "I've been drawing animals lately." "I'd love to see them," Madison replied, her usual polished facade completely absent. We ordered ice cream, Madison getting a full scoop of chocolate without any comments about calories or sugar, and sat together somewhat awkwardly. I want to say again how sorry I am for what happened, Madison said directly to Zoe. It was mean and wrong. Zoe studied her aunt's face. Why did you do it? The direct question seemed to catch Madison off guard, but to her credit, she answered honestly. Sometimes when grown-ups have bad feelings about themselves, they say or do mean things to other people. I was feeling bad about myself, and instead of dealing with those feelings properly, I took them out on you. That's what I'm learning in therapy, how to handle my feelings without hurting others. Ms. Fisher says it's okay to have big feelings, but not okay to have big reactions that hurt people, Zoe offered. Madison smiled gently. Ms. Fisher sounds very wise. That's exactly right. The kids at school stopped making pig noises, Zoe shared unexpectedly. Mom talked to the teacher, and she made them apologize. I'm glad, Madison said. What they did wasn't okay either. Just like what I did wasn't okay. Did people make fun of you when you were little? Zoe asked with the unfiltered curiosity of childhood. Madison hesitated, then nodded. Yes, they did. About my weight and other things. It hurt my feelings very badly, and I never really dealt with that hurt properly. That's sad, Zoe said simply. People should be nice to each other. You're absolutely right, Madison agreed, her eyes glistening. The conversation gradually became less strained as they discovered a shared interest in art. Madison had studied art history in college, something I'd forgotten. By the end of our half-hour meeting, Zoe was explaining her technique for drawing horses, and Madison was listening with genuine interest. As we prepared to leave, Madison asked, would it be okay if we did this again sometime? Maybe visit the art museum together? Zoe looked at me, then back at Madison. I think that would be okay. But Mom has to come too. Absolutely, Madison agreed immediately. I wouldn't want it any other way. In the car afterward, I asked Zoe how she felt. Aunt Madison seems different, she observed. Less scary. I think she's working hard to change. I'm glad, Zoe said, flipping through her new sketchbook. Everyone deserves a second chance if they're really sorry. Once again, my daughter's capacity for forgiveness humbled me. While I wasn't ready to fully trust Madison yet, seeing her genuine efforts and Zoe's cautious openness gave me hope that healing was possible. 2 months after our ice cream shop meeting, we invited Madison to dinner at our home, the first time since the incident. Ryan was hesitant but supportive, agreeing that we needed to take small steps toward rebuilding family connections. Just dinner, I assured him. And we can always ask her to leave if things go sideways. Madison arrived exactly on time, bearing a homemade pie rather than an expensive store-bought gift. The gesture wasn't lost on me. She had actually spent time creating something rather than throwing money at the situation. Your house is so cozy, she commented as she entered, and for once it didn't sound like a backhanded compliment about our modest living situation. Dinner began with some awkward small talk. The weather, James' work, local news. Ryan was polite but reserved, watching Madison carefully. Zoe, ever the icebreaker, eventually piped up. And Madison, do you want to see my drawings after dinner? Madison's face lit up. I'd love that. Something shifted after that, the tension in the room easing slightly. We talked about Zoe's school projects, Ryan's latest architectural challenge, and my new freelance clients. Madison listened more than she spoke, asking thoughtful questions rather than dominating the conversation as she once would have. After dinner, while Zoe was showing Madison her art collection in the living room, Ryan pulled me aside in the kitchen. She seems different, he observed quietly. I know. It's like she's actually present, not just performing. I'm still watching her closely with Zoe, but this is a good start, he acknowledged. Later, after Zoe went to bed, Madison and I sat at the kitchen table with cups of tea, much like Ryan and I had done the night of the incident. The parallel wasn't lost on either of us. Thank you for tonight, Madison said. I know it couldn't have been easy to invite me. It wasn't, I admitted. But I think it was the right decision. My therapist has helped me understand so much about myself, she continued. About how my competitiveness with you masked my own insecurities. About how my eating disorder shaped my relationships with everyone, especially other women. That can't be easy to face. It's excruciating sometimes, she acknowledged, but also freeing. I've lived so much of my life trying to be perfect, to prove my worth through achievements and appearance. It's exhausting. You don't have to prove anything to be loved, Madison. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm starting to believe that. Finally. We talked late into the night, really talked perhaps for the first time since childhood. She told me about her fertility struggles and how that had amplified her sense of failure. I shared my own insecurities about motherhood and career choices. We reminisced about childhood memories, sometimes realizing how differently we had experienced the same events. I always thought you had it all figured out, I confessed. The perfect career, the glamorous life. Madison laughed softly. And I thought you had everything that mattered, genuine happiness, a family full of love. I was drowning in jealousy, while projecting an image of having it all. We've both been idiots, I said, and we both laughed. James has noticed the changes in me, Madison shared. He said he feels like he's getting to know his wife for the first time. We're talking about adoption now, exploring options. You'd be a good mother, Madison. The person you're becoming would be. Her smile was tinged with sadness, but also hope. I'd like to believe that. In the weeks that followed, Madison became a more regular presence in our lives. She and Zoe developed a genuine bond over art projects. She and Ryan found common ground discussing architecture and design. Most surprisingly, she began attending Zoe's school events, cheering louder than anyone when Zoe received an award for her science project. The extended family noticed the changes too. At my parents' anniversary dinner, Aunt Patricia pulled me aside. Whatever happened between you and Madison, it's like night and day. She actually asked about my garden instead of talking about herself for once. My mother, initially skeptical of the rift and subsequent reconciliation, eventually acknowledged the positive changes. I've never seen Madison so authentic, she admitted. Though I still don't fully understand what happened between you two. We're figuring it out, I told her. One day at a time. Madison's professional life transformed as well. She leveraged her position in fashion marketing to advocate for more diverse body representation in campaigns. She spoke openly in industry meetings about her own history with eating disorders and body image issues. When she was featured in a business magazine, she used the platform to discuss mental health in the corporate world rather than just her career achievements. James, who had always seemed slightly uncomfortable in family settings, became more relaxed and engaged. One evening when they were visiting, he pulled me aside. I need to thank you, he said unexpectedly. For what? For not giving up on Madison. The confrontation you had with her, it was the catalyst she needed. She's happier now than I've ever seen her, even with all the difficult work she's doing. Zoe, too, blossomed in the aftermath of the crisis. The bullying at school had stopped completely, and she had developed a new confidence in standing up for herself and others. One afternoon, she came home proud because she had defended another girl who was being teased about her weight. I told them it's not okay to talk about people's bodies like that, she reported. Just like Aunt Madison taught me. The fact that Madison had become a positive influence in Zoe's life was perhaps the most profound transformation of all. At our next family reunion, almost exactly a year after the Puddle incident, the contrast couldn't have been more striking. Madison arrived on time, dressed casually, helping carry food from cars instead of making a grand entrance. When it rained again, she was the first to suggest indoor games for the children, getting down on the floor to play with them despite her designer jeans. As I watched her laughing with Zoe and the other children, my father came to stand beside me. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. When everything happened last year, I tried to sweep it under the rug. I should have taken it more seriously. It's okay, Dad. None of us really understood what was happening. I'm proud of both my daughters, he said, squeezing my shoulder, for finding your way back to each other. That evening, as the gathering wound down, Madison and I found ourselves alone on the porch swing, watching the sunset over the lake. The same setting where everything had fallen apart a year earlier. It's strange, Madison mused. If you had asked me a year ago what would make me happy, I would have said more success, more recognition, maybe a bigger house. Now all of that seems so empty compared to this, being able to sit with my sister and just be. I nodded, understanding completely. Sometimes we have to break before we can rebuild something stronger. Do you think Zoe will remember the awful thing I did when she gets older? Madison asked, vulnerability in her voice. Probably, I answered honestly. But she'll also remember how you took responsibility, made amends, and became the aunt she deserves. That's the more important lesson. Madison smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. When did my big sister get so wise? Probably around the same time my little sister got so brave, I replied, bumping her shoulder with mine. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The journey hadn't been easy, and we still had work to do, but the bridge between us was stronger now than it had ever been, forged in fire and rebuilt with understanding, honesty, and love.